Build It Backwards is divided into two different divisions. We've got the training division and we have the consulting division. And we keep, or attempt to keep, a balance between the two. About half of our practice is consulting and half is training. So let me explain the difference, if I may. Training is usually in a public setting, although we certainly do some in-house programs, where we take a pre-approved outline on a subject matter, bring it to the audience, and we teach them about the tools, the techniques, the policies, the practices, so that they can then take that information and go back to their companies. But there is no accountability, and there's very little in the way of follow-up, because many companies choose to take advantage of training opportunities because they feel they have the subject matter experts or the personnel inside the company to actually implement. So that's the training side. The consulting side is where we actually go into a company to hands-on implement what the training had talked about. So training is where we give you the tools and you rely on yourself to do the implementation. Consulting is where you ask us, as our client, to come in to do an assessment of your situation, to recommend solutions, and then to implement those solutions over an agreed upon scope. Now, what areas do we do this training and consulting in? There's only three areas that we focus on: strategy, finance, and process. And as we've talked before, our strategy is different. We take the philosophy that the most effective strategy for any company is to build it backwards. So we help you go through vision, value, goals, mission, and create your unique strategy. So that's part of our consulting when it comes to strategy. The training side of strategy is if you want to learn the tools and techniques and do this on your own, we can teach you how to do this. But then there's the implementation side. Implementation is the real Achilles heel of most organizations when it comes to strategy. So what we do is, if you engage us, once we've helped you develop your strategy and your strategic plan, we'll come in, work with you to go through the more difficult part of strategy, which is the actual implementation. The implementation of the strategy, which takes much longer than creating the strategy, is the biggest challenge. And for most companies, it's the biggest area of failure. When it comes to finance, we do both training on financial modeling, on financial analysis, on corporate finance, as well as consulting in these areas of how to use financial modeling to plan all of the potential outcomes for your situation in the future. How to use Excel as a tool well beyond the 4 or 5 tools, techniques that most people use. We'll also go in and show you how to use ratios and other financial tools to help you create a clearer analysis of where you have been and where you should be going. When it comes to process, we not only do training when it comes to process, lean, continuous process improvement, but the consulting side, just like with strategy, the implementation of these tools is the real challenge. It's the area where most companies seem to fail. So what we do is we'll go in, you ask us to help you implement a continuous improvement program. So we'll sit down with the key people involved. We'll develop an overall plan of action. We'll include the process owners, the process users, the process champions. We will take and walk the process owners through the specific tools, the process map, value stream mapping, actually documenting the overall process and finding ways to make it much more efficient. And we'll implement that, actually help them start to change their processes, make sure these are optimized, then they're documented. Then everyone who uses the process is retrained on the new work instructions to make sure that everyone is doing it the same way, since we've now determined this is the most efficient way to run the operation. That really separates the training side of our business from the consulting side, and strategy, finance, and process, which are our three core competencies.